Hello. So the question is, can we get the GLP1 injections through our GP? And the answer is yes and no. So it's not as straightforward as I would like, and probably everyone else as well. So at the moment, I am currently trying to get the injections through my own GP. So what I'll do is I'll just explain how services like this work in England. So in 2022, we worked under what were called CCGs, or clinical commissioning groups, and those were organisations in specific areas of England that were responsible for buying healthcare services or organising healthcare services, planning healthcare services, and dealing with the money from N.H.S. England. So they would all over the country. The whole of England was divided up into these CCGs. In 2022, the Health and Care Act came in and decided that these CCGs should be scrapped and we should have what are called ICBs, which are integrated care boards. So these integrated care boards do a similar thing, however they were designed to streamline NHS services, to reduce inequalities, and to make sure that healthcare services, social care services, and local authorities work together as preventative systems. That's what they were designed to do. People have got different opinions on how that is actually working in reality, but I won't get into that. So at the moment, the ICBs across England are either operate a GLP1 service or they don't. So NHS England has what's called diabetes remission programme, basically. So the diabetes remission programme is around getting people out of type 2 diabetes. So at the moment, there is a service called Oviva, and Oviva is funded in part by NHS England, but also by some CCGs. At the minute, Oviva operate quite widely within England, doing the diabetes remission work for NHS England, and that's been going on for quite a while. However, more recently, they've started offering what's called Tier 3 weight management, and part of that Tier 3 weight management includes GLP1 medications. So under what's called the right to choose rule, some people in some ICB areas will be able to get GLP1 medications through their GP, who will refer them to the Oviva service. However, there are certain criteria that you need to meet. So things like your BMI need to be a certain level. You need to have certain health conditions in order to qualify for the injections. I've recently started the process of speaking to my GP about getting these injections. Now, I was under the impression that my ICB were doing these injections. However, it's not that simple. So they are doing the injections, but for people with diabetes or at risk of diabetes. So that means I'm unfortunately, or fortunately, not type 2 diabetic. So that's already a point knocked off for me. I do have high blood pressure, which is one of the factors that can qualify you, shall we say, for the injections with Oviva. I've also got a family history of heart problems, diabetes, those kinds of things. So in that sense, I would, doing the Oviva survey or questionnaire, I would qualify for them. However, as we all know, these things always come down to the money. So at the moment, my specific ICB, which is Lancashire and South Cumbria, they don't have a contract with Oviva for GLP1 medications for obesity. They do, however, have a contract with them for GLP1 medications for people who are type 2. So that is a bit rubbish. However, when I spoke to my GP on Monday, she did say to me, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Oviva, yeah, I'm really familiar with them. We'll get your referral done. That's not a problem. She said, I have no issue with referring you. The only problem is that because you're not type 2, it's not likely that you will get them. Now, at the time, I thought, oh, the ICB will look at my case and say, oh no, she doesn't need them, and just scrap it. However, it's not necessarily just down to the ICB, it's down to contracting and what contracts are in place with Oviva and my ICB, and it's like that for the majority of England at the moment. So the majority of England are working with Oviva, all the ICBs, I think there's 42 of them, and they are working with Oviva in some capacity. However, there are very few ICBs that are doing it specifically for people who are obese and want the weight loss injections.
Hi guys, sorry, I'm not being very clear in this bit. So, before I discuss the 3 ICBs that have got the specific contract for the injections, I just wanted to say, if you're in one of the areas that I don't mention here, still approach your GP and have the conversation, because under the right to choose rule that I spoke about earlier, it may be that you can be considered for the injections anyway, depending on what criteria you fit.
And obviously have the other criteria. So there's 3 ICBs in England at the moment that do the injections on the N.H.S. essentially. So Oviva are a private organisation that are commissioned by N.H.S. England. So N.H.S. England reimburses the cost of any patient care that they deliver. And like I say, depending on where you live, that's going to dictate what service you receive from Oviva as a patient. The 3 ICBs that are doing the full injection for obesity and not just people with type 2 are Mid and South Essex ICB, Bristol, North Somerset and South Gloucestershire ICB, and Gateshead, North East and North Cumbria ICS. So those are the 3 areas that are doing the full whack right now. However, it doesn't mean to say that further down the line, more ICBs are going to be seeing the success and the cost savings. Let's be honest, this is what it's all about for them. They're going to be seeing this and they're going to be cottoning onto it and thinking, okay, we need to do this for our patients. There are quite a few ICBs down south at the moment who are considering it, but they're on the fence and they want to see what's called due diligence. So they want to see that Oviva are complying with all the regulations and the laws around providing healthcare services. So all about your safeguarding, your health and social care regulations, all those kinds of things. They're looking for Oviva to be meeting those in a really significant way before they'll trust them with their patients. And it is understandable. You know, this is a really amazing medication, an amazing tool for people to use, but a lot of consideration has to go into how it's rolled out. So it's good news in that some ICBs are currently doing it, and if you're in one of those areas and you're overweight and you've got certain conditions like high blood pressure, your heart failure risk score is high, you've got type 2, all of those things, if you're in an area that operates under the Oviva contract, go to your GP and have the conversation. My GP, like I say, has done the referral for me. I've been accepted by Oviva in the first stage. That doesn't mean to say they're going to fully accept me and enrol me on a GLP1 program. However, I have got some things working in my favour in that my BMI is still quite high. I've got high blood pressure still. It's not as high as it was. It's a lot lower, but it's still high. I've got the family history, and I've also done a hell of a lot of work independently, which shows willing. And this is another thing that some ICBs are wanting to see from people. So if you can, and it's a really backwards way of doing it. I completely get why people get so frustrated about this. So say, for example, if you want bariatric surgery, you have to prove to them to some degree that you're able to lose weight and manage your weight to a level independently. So you have to lose a certain amount of weight before the surgery, and that then works in your favour in terms of how likely it is that you're going to get the surgery. It's silly in a way, I kind of understand it, but at the same time, it kind of disregards how complex and what a battle it is for people to fight the weight and get weight off. And I'm hoping that further down the line, like I say, more ICBs are going to roll these out and they're going to be more accessible to more people. And I do believe that that's going to happen. Like I say, down south, they're on the fence. North of England, it's starting. It is starting. So there's a lot of promise out there at the moment. And like I say, some of them are doing the injections through Oviva. So if you, like I say, if you live in one of these 3 areas that I've mentioned, go to your GP and, you know, have the conversation. And what they want to hear is that you're willing to put in the work, that you don't think it's a magic wand, and that you're willing to change your life and make lifelong changes to how you manage your own healthcare, because a lot of it is down to that. They want to know that you're worth the investment, that you're worth the effort, because these injections are hugely expensive. So fingers crossed, everyone. I'm going to keep updating on my progress with the injections and with Oviva, and hopefully I'll be accepted. I'm 50-50 at the moment. I feel like it works in my favour, like I say, that I've done a lot of work independently. They can see how willing I am to change my life, and I've already done that to a massive degree, but I'm not quite ready to come off them yet, and that's my issue. I've done a lot of the work, I've proven myself, I've changed my life, and that might actually work against me. I don't know. But also, it's a preventative, isn't it? So if there are people out there like me who aren't quite ready to come off them but are really struggling to keep paying for them, then, you know, hopefully they'll see that as something worth investing in. So yeah, please comment down below and let me know if you have a conversation with your GP, what your experience has been, what you know about Oviva already and the Oviva experience. Maybe I've missed something that you'd like to know about. Maybe there's something else that you'd like me to cover around the commissioning of Oviva service. There might be all sorts of things that you can think of that you want to say on the back of this, and please do feel free to comment that down below. If you want to keep up with the progress of my journey of trying to get the injections with my GP, please subscribe and I'll keep posting regular updates. I'm also going to do further updates about it nationally around England. So how it's progressing, who's getting the contracts, what they're doing down south about this due diligence thing. Have they given in and gone, okay, yeah, we're gonna commission that service? Also, I'm going to share a link in the description, or maybe a pinned comment, one or the other, and that will be a link to a Google Drive folder. And in that folder, I'll have a rolling document of all the ICBs that are rolling the injections out and where they're at, you know, what level of contract service they've got with Oviva. So whether it's, you know, just type 2, whether it's the injections, that kind of information, I'll put that all in there, and then we can keep kind of updating it as things evolve. So yeah, definitely subscribe to keep up with all of that as well. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.